Life Next Podcast, the podcast from TNLC helping you grow in your leadership and ministry skills. My name is Chael Branda, and I serve as the Executive Director of Trinity New Life Church, and I am joined by Pastor Clayton Bell, lead pastor of Trinity New Life Church.
So far, so good.
I mean, we're doing this right?
I know.
If you are joining us for the very first time on our NLX podcast because you heard our part one episode on the Beyond Sunday podcast feed, welcome. This is the New Life Next podcast feed line, and we're excited to have you here. Now, if you did come and join us from the Beyond Sunday feed, and this is your first time joining us on the NLX feed, make sure
we're British on this feed.
Make sure that you are following us on Instagram at NLX Podcast. It's a great place for you to get some of the behind the scenes when we use resources and things. We'll post it all there. It's another Instagram feed to give you all of the joy of both Clayton and I throughout the week.
What kind of tea we like, how we take it.
We are not that British. Actually, that doesn't even sound British. I don't even know what that was.
What are you talking about? It's Cockney a little bit. I feel like I should be the chimney sweeper for Mary Poppins.
So on last episode, we started part one of our time and space. There was another word there.
Journey
through time and space episode. Clayton, why don't you give us a recap of that first episode and not with an accent?
So what we're talking about, what we're encouraging, challenging leaders to think through is the fact that in today's day and age, because of technology, most learning has been shifted in time and space, meaning that people are not always coming to one physical location or being limited in one particular time to engage with learning. You can look at that as a way to think about the rise of video chats, of Zoom, Google Hangouts, where people are located at the same time, but their space constraints are all over the place. They could be all over the country. I mean, you do a Zoom call monthly?
Yep, once a month.
I used to do one that was every month, and then we could not find a date for 3 months, and I was like, all right, well, fellas, we had a good run.
Once a month, there's about 10 to 12 of us from all over the country, from Portland to Florida up to Boston. And so because of the technology that we have
England.
No, I knew you were going to go there too. I saw it. Because of the technology that we have, in our possession, time and space doesn't really matter. We can have a meeting. We can have these things that are all over the place. Oh my God.
The sentence you just said is because of the technology in our possession, time and space don't mean anything. Now you are, but here's the thing. You're absolutely correct.
I am.
You are not trying to go back and undo the snap and put Thanos' head back on.
Nope.
I did not know what you're doing right there. I just thought you were about to just be like.
Well, you just thought I was going.
Yeah, I was like, wow, what is? I don't know. I just was so thrown off. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to watch the YouTube videos to be able to see what is happening during that time. But we're talking about time and space are being shifted. So that's, again, your video call or any kind of video call is an example of how space is being shifted, and time and space, though, are in the same ways. People can, this is how movie theaters have been done forever. I mean, movie theaters were like, here's one event, but it's happening over multiple times, even though in the same space. But a lot of our learning is done after the fact. It's done after it's recorded. People look into cameras, they record something, they put it up online, and then people find it later on. I mean, you've gone to YouTube to try to figure out how to fix your water softener or how to install something or, what's the best way to, learn a particular math problem. Or, Caroline's math that she's going through this year, like there's a video for every single, not just chapter, but every single lesson. In every single chapter. It's crazy what's online. So the idea that people have to come to a building during a particular time, and that's the only way that they can learn or engage in an increase of leadership in your church is just, or business, it's really an ancient way to be able to think. That's not in the future. That's for right now. Right. So the big two takeaways we had from last episode were, instead of assuming that you're going to have the meeting in person and then find out if you can put it online, you should probably start from the default assumption that it's online and it's online. Does it have to become into somebody? Does it have to be in person? Oh, math. Hold on.
He's taking notes for those of you on the audio podcast.
Yep, I'm taking notes. The other thing that we said was, okay, so when you're going to put something online, you've got to think about the message and the medium. How is this content designed to be consumed? Create and adjust the way that you present the content based on the way you assume it is going to be consumed.
Right.
If it's going to be consumed in short chunks, if people need to really think, if they're going to be asked comprehensive reading questions about it, you got to navigate all of that and think about that when you're putting the content together and where you're putting it online. So know how you think it, how it's going to be consumed live. People are going to consume stuff you recorded in the past, whatever it is,
Right.
and then adjust your content and know that for when you record it.
But not as much as we have seen in our own organization how much online has been helpful. There are times where you have to pull people together.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to talk about in today's episode is when we as leaders want to remove all of the obstacles for people who are following us to come and jump in and to join us on these journeys in these organizations and things that we're in. So if the first road obstacle was to make something online, awesome. But there does come a time and place where some impartation of people in the room really does matter. And so we have to talk about, okay, when does that decision need to be made? And when that decision is made, how do we make it most effective?
I mean, I think of two recent examples come to mind. So in the first episode, we talked about how we have moved our Introduction to Leadership course online to our NLX Intro course. Anybody who says, hey, I'd like to be a leader, whether you self-identify and say, I'd like to grow in leadership, or whether somebody else has said, hey, I think you have leadership potential, the very first step for them to do this is to take an online leadership course, which you can see more about at tnlc.com and trinitynewlife.com/NLX. You can sign up for that. Anybody can sign up for that. They get a link to this online leadership course. So there's no waiting. You immediately go into that. However, this past September, which is when we launched this podcast, was our first ever NLX conference.
Yep.
That none of that was live streamed. All of that was done in person. People create an environment. It's undeniable. That's not, it is, there's a spiritual reasoning behind it, but it's not simply spiritual as the reason that we say that.
Right.
People create an environment. They create energy. They create laughter. They make you think about things differently. It affects your mood. And so when we're trying to be able to press people and challenge people into leadership, there's a way that you do that in a room with people that is well beyond what can only be done online. However, with the online leadership course and a lot of that stuff, we knew a lot of the people, even if they had never been, they've been to church together, they might have been to different services, they might have been in different discipleship groups. When they're coming in person, they've got a foundation that's built together.
Right.
Same thing with our recent Real Marriage Conference that we did with Pastor Brent Gerard and Carla Gerard. There's a difference. You can get great leadership material online for your marriage. You can get books you can read. I mean, we do a lot of that. But there's a difference when you make a decision to alter your schedule, to alter your physical location, and you are entering into a place where you know exactly why you've come there. You're not listening while you're doing something else. You're not doing the dishes and listening to a marriage lesson. You're more focused. You're more locked in. And I think you're more engaged in that moment, which is, again, a reason why sometimes you do need to be in person. But that's an example of that changes the environment. You can still learn about all these different things with marriage. You can listen to it afterwards, but it's not the same thing as being in the room. Sometimes you've got to move that when the proximity, the intimacy, when you need to look people in the eye, when you know that there needs to be discussion had.
Right.
I mean, what was the notes we said? When you're sitting in a meeting, I think every single person asks, could this have been an email?
This is true.
I mean,
there's memes all about it.
Could this have been a meeting?
Right.
One of my favorite things online is the demotivator,
Right.
despair.com. It's the demotivator posters. It's one, like those old motivational posters. One of them, but these are the opposite of it. And it has everybody's hands in the middle. And it says, meetings. None of us are as dumb as all of us.
Right.
And I just think that is so indicative of we've just always done it this way. We're probably now transitioning into our fourth or fifth different way to do staff meetings.
Yep. Fifth.
I can't remember exactly, but we're about to transition into make another adjustment. Environments get stale.
Yep.
Routines get stale. And so even the necessity and the advantage you get from bringing people together, you lose it when you're...
Right. We can talk about the importance of removing time and space and being able to have the online ability, which is awesome. But you do start to lose the connection. I think I heard it said once that sometimes the biggest motivator is immersion. Like you take it and immerse somebody into something, you are going to get a lot more of a motivational like push into the next thing when you're looking to get the momentum that you might be missing. So that is one of the best ways for when you're starting to have these ideas of, okay, is it time to bring everyone back together? And exactly what you just said, this idea, did things get stale? Have things been maintaining? And when you're starting to see the maintenance kicking in, maybe that's the time to be like, okay, we're going to bring everyone together in order to immerse them into the vision, the excitement, the whatever it is, in order to get to the next thing. I think that is one of the reasons why with our staff meetings, we're starting to change things up, is because we started realizing we're actually losing time and we weren't gaining the time that we needed to. So by making just a couple adjustments to that meeting, that does not have food. It cannot be an email. Like, we have to get these people face to face because they need to know all of the things happening. It was one of these, well, if we have to bring them together, how do we make this time the momentum for the week? How do we make this launch into the next thing? So
it's taking the same content, but looking at the way it's being presented and you're interacting with it. I heard an incredible story that just makes you go, why is not everybody else not doing this? Of a math teacher who recorded his lessons on YouTube, and the kids' homework became watching the lessons, and then they came to class to do their homework. So you're still doing homework, you're still doing lessons. But how many people get caught on their own trying to do homework and then they don't have anybody to ask, so they're floundering? Now, again, you can look on YouTube. We just had to, three-way call.
Figure it out. Yeah. I don't know.
Right. So what a brilliant way to shift time and space. You still have to gather together. You still need to go to school. All those things need to take place. But we're going to rearrange the way that we use the content so that the time together is more valuable. Too much in person is used as an info dump. There's even some adjustments we're making with our discipleship groups to, present videos ahead of time to remind people of information so that when we get together, we can adjust to different content. People still have to consume it. But that's the idea behind it, is there are times where you got to come together. But what's the information? Is this just an info dump? Again, our meetings, our emails with food, a lot of times. You've got to go against that. You've got to think this had to be in person.
Yeah.
And nothing slowing too much. So what do you think makes a great in-person meeting?
Other than the people?
Other than the people. But that's a really important thing. Are the right
people in the room? That's actually exactly where I was going.
No, that's huge.
It's making sure that we do this a lot with our communication. We talk about our targets. Like, I'm not going to send an email to every single person in the church when we're doing something specific for our elementary kids. That's going to limit and then when people get that, it just becomes noise. Are your meetings just noise? Are you trying to pull in so many people because we're going to do this meeting, we might as well pull everybody in right now and just get done? No. Make sure the meeting has a specific purpose, that you know that specific person, and that you're pulling the right people in the room.
Yeah, one of the things that we say pretty often at staff when I'm closing the staff meeting, I say, does anybody have anything else for everyone?
Right.
Not does anybody have anything else? I don't need Colin and Carly having a debate, our kids director and our students director having a debate on what's the best way to transition somebody from 5th grade to 6th grade in that room.
Right.
That's an important discussion, but what I'm trying to say is, does anybody have anything for everybody? So getting the right people to have to be at the meeting, you don't want anybody to ever walk away and going, I didn't need to be here for that.
Right.
You don't want anybody walking away saying, that should have been an email. You don't want anybody walking away saying, I didn't need to be there. And I don't think you need, I know. You don't want anybody walking away saying, that was important, but I could not stay engaged. The format, we talked about this in the previous, when it comes to online stuff. Think about what's being presented and then create the most appropriate transition, the most appropriate methodology to accomplish that mission.
Do the things that you can't do in an email or on a video or online. Like if you're icebreakers, the kinetic, get people up out of their seat, have them interacting with each other, because that's the things that you can't do. Little games, anything. When you put even something as simple as a table question that might be something completely ridiculous that it's probably something they don't know about the people sitting right across from them. And maybe they're on the same teams together, maybe they're in the same departments together. When you can do something different in that environment because we're coming all together, this gives us the opportunity to engage in this way or engage in that way, because everything else, all the information that you're going to probably do in your meeting, which makes sense. Again, if it's just an information dump, we could have done that on an email or in a video conference call or anything like that. But I love the opportunity when we can get people in the room and I actually can get them to stand up and move around. It almost does not matter what I'm doing with them, as long as they are actually being physically, like, what's the word? There's a word.
Kinetic?
Kinetic, this is the word. To in that movement, because one, it's how some people learn best. So if people have been learning online up to this point or have been reading your emails at this point, maybe they haven't been getting the full context of everything because it's just not the way they learn. But now you're bringing them into an environment where this is the way that they learn, and they're going to be able to connect the dots. And then when they do sit down and get the information, because they're already excited, because they're already filled in their way of learning information, everything else is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. One of the best learning experiences I ever had is when I became certified as a CrossFit coach. It's called the L1, the level 1. And it's 9 to 5, 2 days in a row. And I was like, 9 to 5, 2 days in a row? Like, how boring. But and as someone who has to teach and present myself, I was kind of meta observing while I was trying to learn and figure out how many blocks in the zone diet an apple has, which is, I think it's 2. That's what I guessed on the quiz. Anyways, I passed.
That's all that matters.
There would be some level of sit and everybody point up here learning. Then they would bring somebody else up to demonstrate a movement. Then you'd be up working on the movement. Then you'd be up coaching the movement with somebody else. So just as soon as you were about to be like, I'm about to get like, like you were up.
Yep.
And you were changed. And then you could be at a place where you're like, we're working on this. I'm so exhausted. Only Chris listening to this from anybody, but like doing 250 PVC snatch movements, I don't care if it's no weight. You're just like, oh, please, Percy, you need to stop. Like, I'm now like, I'm distracted. I'm getting very angry. I'm sore, and I needed to sit down.
Right.
But right when I thought, oh man, I'm about to be done. They had planned out those modalities to be shifted and changed. And so I think what you're saying is, what can you do in person that you can't do in an email? Is exactly right. You've got to add those things in to those meetings.
And do it with some excellence and some fun. I mean, our staff probably hates me in the idea of when we do big things around here, we tend to take breaks and we'll have snacks or things happening. And I'm always like, do something different. Like, but I was like, no, we've already done this kind of a break snack, or we've already done this kind of dessert bar. Like, let's try something.
Your own sushi.
let's try something different. We can recycle. We'll use something we might have used 2 or 3 meetings ago, type thing. But I don't want somebody to be like, oh well, here we go with another ice cream bar. Like here's the taco bar. Like we're like, how can we change things up a little bit to make it so that when they walk out during their breaks or when they stand up to move, it's like, oh, This is why the meeting in person was important. This is why it's key for me to clear my schedule every time this organization or this leadership team says, hey, we need to get together. When we hear those words, when your meetings are efficient, when they're excellent, when they're fun, when you're actually achieving your goal because you knew the purpose and you brought the right people in the room, when you do all of that, people will bend over backwards to make sure their calendars are clear, their time is available for you, and you will be able to give the information that you need to give.
Yeah. Environment has got to be crucial. And these are all these little things about running meetings, but I thought we were talking about being in space and time. I think we've got to, this is the necessity. When you do have those rare moments where you're bringing everybody together, you want to try to think through as much of the little things as you possibly can. Do everything you can to help people grow and mature in those ways. Take advantage of that. So again, we said, make sure it's the right people in the room. Make sure that it is only the right people in the room, right? We said that?
Yes,
meaning like, you get people. What was the first thing you said? I totally lost it.
The
who's there for everybody?
Right.
Is it info dumper? Oh boy, this summary's going off the rails.
I don't know where. Oh, you're trying to summarize.
I was just trying to summarize our big points.
I mean, you want to, yes, I think I just did it. But anyways, what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the right people in the room. Then you want to make your meeting excellent. You want to be able to have those moments where people are moving, they're up and running, you're doing things, you're thinking about the environment, you're thinking about your purpose, you're thinking about the why you've brought the people together. And
it's not just because you always did that.
Right. Don't always do the same thing.
Make sure that this is content that could not have been communicated in any other way, or there's a specific reason that you brought everybody together to communicate. I needed to get everybody at the same time. I needed to do something like that. But as a leader, you're not going to face any less of this. You can't, as much as you want to push against, I don't think this is necessarily evil. I don't think this is a negative thing. We are not saying that time and space have no place anymore. But if I'm going to get less of it, let me make sure that I'm asking for the right things. I don't think you can substitute church for an online streaming service, but I do think you can watch a lot of videos that would have just been an info dump in person. We don't do our starting point online because I think it's important for me as the lead pastor to be in front of people, getting a chance to interact with them, learning their names, learning about them. That's something that I can't do if they're taking the class online, even if I live streamed it. So know why you're bringing them together and that you're accomplishing something that would not be possible if you did it online. But the shift of space and time is not going anywhere, and it's not coming. It's already here. It's already here. Think about the way that your people learn, what they're consuming, and do everything you can to not let your methods and your modalities be the obstacle for them growing and them participating. That's the biggest thing. You don't want to be the obstacle for them desiring and hungering for more.
Exactly.
And you're restricting them because you're in an outdated model.
Right. You want to be a leader who's leading well and having people follow. And the only way as a leader to really be effective in that is to be able to know what obstacles the people following you are going to come up against, and how we can look at that with our time and space is going to be key, whether that's on maybe adjusting things to being online or adjusting things so that when you do pull them together, you make their time and space feel so well cared for by your leadership that they want to give more and they want to invest more in your organization.
All right, well, that's our 2 episodes on shifting space and time. You can, again, follow us at NLX Podcast on Instagram. Email us at podcast@trinitynewlife.com. And anything else you need, it's usually something Trinity New Life.
TrinityNewLife.com/NLX for all of your New Life Next information.
That's right.
Have a good week, weekend, holiday. If you just finished your holiday, whenever you're listening to it, everyone, we will be back soon.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.